Hey guys, welcome back to Diary Bookaholic. Today's video is a kind of my book projects for 2023 for the coming year. Every year I kind of have little challenges I want to do while reading, just to help me pick, because I do have a vast range of books that are unread. There are books that I have already read that I want to reread too. So this isn't all the projects. I normally do a pick a book from a shelf, but I don't think I'm going to do that this year because it's or if I do, I'm not going to pre-plan it. I'll just let you know monthly TBRs what book that is and what shelf it's from. So with that said, the first one I want to do, I mentioned rereads. I do have a stack of books that I want to reread. A lot of these books I've read, say 10 plus years ago. So these are books from my high school time, middle school. So with that said, let's get into the books. First off is Hopkins books. I did start rereading some of her work this year, and when I tend to reread, I tend to annotate a little bit. So I read Burn earlier this year. I kind of lost track of my rereads, but I want to reread the sequel, Smoke. Then I want to read Identical. I want to reread Impulse and Perfect by Hopkins. Another author that I read was Laurie Halse Anderson. Now I have read some of her stuff more recent as well, but this is probably one of the first books I read by her, and that's Speak. Now this will be very triggering to anyone who's been raped, because it is about a girl who was raped, but that's the one I want to reread and annotate. Also want to reread Twisted by her as well. There's a few other books I would like to reread by her, but I don't have them on my shelves, so maybe in the coming year I'll pick them up. She's an author I have to catch up on too. I want to continue. The other thing I want to reread next year is I want to continue my reread of probably one of my favorite series of all times, the Sweep series, or it's also known as the Wicca series. Book 5, Awakening. Book 6, Spellbound. Book 7, The Calling. Book 8, Changeling. Book 9, Strife. And Book 10, Secret. Now there is 5 more books in this series, but I'm being reasonable, even though they're pretty small books. I know if I try to hardcore reread them, like within a month, I will get burnt out and I would end up hating the series. And this is one of my all-time favorites. Like the first book I've read 5 times, 4 or 5, maybe even 6 or 7 times. And it was one of my go-to books that I would go to kind of get out of a slump when I was younger. I want to say I found this series when I was in like 8th grade. 8th, 9th grade, somewhere around there. So with that said, those are the books that I want to reread. Now, I'm in the middle of I don't want to even know how many series. They're probably 50 series. So to help combat that a little bit, there's a few that I want to finish up. I can't remember if it was last year or year before or even this year. I picked up Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo and never picked up the sequels, second or third books. So I want to read Siege and the Storm and Ruin and Rising, that series. That would be a series that I could finish, and I can get to go on to the duology that comes after this in this universe. Now the one that I only have one book of is, I think it's the Unremembered series or something like that by Jessica Brody, Unchanged. I do have the novellas as well, but they're not, I read the first 2. They were okay for me. They aren't my favorite series, so nothing against the author. It's not the writing that's getting it. It's just the series I do isn't my idea of a good time. Another one, which is a big one, is the Throne of Glass series. So we have Assassin Blade, I still need to read. Heir of Fire, Queen of Shadow, Tower of Dawn, Empire of Storm, and Kingdom of Ash that I need to read. I also have a couple other ones. I just have one book in the series to read. The Trial trilogy, the first trilogy in the series. Ascend, I read Switch years ago. I won the second one, and then my grandma bought this one for Christmas one year for me. And I read the sequel this year to it, after years in between gaps, so I want to go ahead and finish this up next year. This one will be kind of hitting two birds with one stone. Two birds with one stone, where it's a catch-up of one of my favorite authors and a series finish. I think this is the Immortal Beloved series. I read the first two a few years ago and just didn't pick this one up, so I'm going to try to finish this series up as well. Witchy read. This is the final book in that trilogy. And with that leads to my next one, which is my catching up on my authors that I love. I try to do this every so often because I do fall behind. I don't keep up as well as I want to, or I can't get the books as fast as I want to, or fit them in sometimes into my TBRs as soon as I want to. So first off, like I said with the last book, I said Cate. Tiernan is one. I have 5 of her books. She hasn't written anything since. I think I've been putting off because she hasn't had any new content in a long time. But we have the Balefire series. This is a bind-up of the 4 books. A Chancellor of Wind, a Circle of Ashes, a Feather of Stone, a Necklace of Water. I'll probably try to read this in a month, or I will break it up into 4 months. It's not that big of a deal, but I do want to read these. I came across this series when I first picked up Sweep Wicca series by her because it's another witch series. I think all her books have to deal with witches. They really do. Or some type of magical element to it. And I wanted to read it back then, but I could only find, I think, book 3 or something in the store, so I didn't want to pick up book 3 and start there. So I found this bind-up of it and got it, and it's been sitting on my shelf since I bought it. I got a fear of just not having anything new, but I can keep rereading it if I really like it, so I'll always have something to read by this author. Another one, and this one kind of hurt because it's the start of a series that has not been finished. She hasn't finished writing it, so. Birthright, Darkest Fear. So this one would either be I'll consider the series finished as soon as I read this. And then if any more comes out within the series, I'll open that up again to it. But that's part of the reason why I didn't want to pick this up, because I didn't want to fall in love with this and then not have the sequel. Another author that I love, and I don't have a physical copy of the book, is Almost Beautiful by Jamie McGuire. I've read all her books up to this point except for that one. So this book, and then if she comes out with one in 2023, I will figure out how I can fit that one in. But this one I'll probably read on because I have it on Kindle. But it's a continuation of the Beautiful Disaster, Walking Disaster, Beautiful Wedding, those books. So until this release this year, it was up to date, and now it's not, so now the series got reopened, so it's fine. Another book, and same thing, if she releases more in 2023, I will pick them up. What About Will by Hopkins. So this one came out, I want to say, not this year, but last year. And I just couldn't fit it into this year, TBRs. And when I did want to, I ended up doing Bookopoly, and it didn't fit any of the prompts, so I could fit it in there. With that, I'm going to be trying to fit that into one of the TBRs for next year. Another author that's more of a recent find is Emma Lord. Her new book comes out in January on the 24th. I do have a e-copy of it on NetGalley. Begin Again. I'm going to probably start reading this as soon as the month start, because I want to get a review up for this and everything, because I want to keep up with Lord Olympus. This is volume 3. I need to read this, and then all the volumes that comes after this. Those are all my bookish projects that I have for this coming year. With that said, I'll have a list of all the books down below, along with my Goodreads, Instagram, and my blog. And with that said, have a wonderful day. Read what you love.